Okay, Zero One, come at me. I'm ready. I am on such a high from Juggler Juggler right now. There is absolutely nothing you can do to bring me down. I cannot breathe today, my god. I have one of those things that catches sound now, but it's not going to do anything but my awful attempts at sucking in breaths. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try my best to make it sound less unbearable. Again, I'm not going to talk that much about Guy yet because I want to have an entire video on that in its own right. Plus, I don't quite know how to put into words how I feel about that yet. Other than Sakuragi is such a good actor, seriously, bloody hell. Naturally, Howard was only in it for a few seconds and purely with the Ark's voice, which is a good voice. I mean, of course it is, it's Hayao Michelle. That's a bloody good voice, but I miss hearing Sunagawa so much. Early on in this series I was like, wow, Horobi seems like he has such a rich backstory to unlock. I can't wait to find out more about him. I hope we get to see flashbacks of him pre-arc. And now I'm like, please can we hear Sunagawa speak again, just once, just one line. On the subject of speaking though, I absolutely adore how Zia has fallen was in Ikazuchi's voice. I didn't expect that. It was so jarring and unsettling to hear that coming from Ikazuchi. Ikazuchi took great pride in watching over Zia with Subaru. Haunting is the word I'm looking for. It was haunting. Those words in Ikazuchi's voice. It's always so upsetting when Jin just completely disregards the rest of his family and focuses only on Zero One and no one else. The Ark has basically just threatened Ikazuchi. His job is complete and we know what that means. Ikazuchi was always destined to be deactivated, killed once his job was done, and now it is. You just watched him being taken over violently screaming and all you care about is your new BFF Zero One. What is he going to call him next week? He's been calling him Zero One all this time. What happens when he's 02? Anyway, Jin, you started to gain singularity because you watched Ikazuchi die. You made a grave for him in Ansatsu-chan, and now you're watching something that should be disturbing to you, and you still only care about Naruto. Well, Jin has already decided no one can break free from the Ark, despite he himself having broken free from the Ark, so apparently telling himself that, yeah, no, there's no saving Horobi, Ikazuchi and Naki means, well, he just doesn't have to care anymore. Maybe Horobi wouldn't have to break free from the Ark if you didn't take him to be reconnected in the first place, cause when you rescued him from the basement, he was not connected to the Ark. So maybe, Jin, maybe if you'd have let him stay unconnected, this wouldn't be happening. Except raising the Ark was more important to you, that you'd sacrifice your family for it. God, did he not even rescue Horobi from the basement because he cared about him, but because he needed him? Would Horobi still be there if Jin didn't have this plan? Even if it was true, even if they were so far gone that there is genuinely absolutely nothing at all they can do, which is clearly not true, you'd still think he'd at least care. He'd at least be emotional over seeing at least his dad being controlled like this, let alone trying to stab him in the face. I know it's been a week, so I have to get over it. Surely defeating the Ark would mean there's no Ark for them to break free from, so the plan should still be to defeat the Ark and not Horobi, Ikazuchi and Naki, because they're not the Ark is, then they can still be saved. Defeat the Ark, and then you'll have Horobi, Ikazuchi and Naki. But apparently no, we don't care about that until of course Ikazuchi starts acting like Raiden, and then suddenly we care again. Not because he's alive and deserves to stay alive purely on the basis that we should maybe not let alive people die, but because his job is to protect Zia, he's still useful. How about Hyuga don't have to prove their worth to in order to be allowed to continue existing? How about Ikazuchi is his own person who doesn't exist for you? Instead it's, he doesn't exist for you, he exists for us. How very dare you steal our tool? Horobi, on the other hand, isn't useful to humans, so again, screw him, I guess. I want to stress that if I didn't like Jin, I wouldn't care. I don't rant about the things Guy does because I love his character, you know he's going to do those things. It's more that I feel salty for being shortchanged with baby Jin. The family aspect was my favourite part of the series. If we never had the family aspect to begin with, I wouldn't care so much about what's happening now. It's just so sad and exhausting to have waited so long to return to the family aspect, only for Jin to all of a sudden not seem to care. I know I'm hard on Jin, but it's genuinely only because I loved his character, and it's really painful to have lost basically my favourite part of the series. It's so painful to watch him care more about Naruto and Yua than Ikazuchi and Horobi. Obviously, I'm not owed anything, none of us are owed anything, but that doesn't mean I can't be feeling absolutely exhausted for waiting for Jin to be revived with no payoff. waiting for Horobi to be revived with no payoff, waiting for Kazuchi Singularity only for it to only last 5 minutes, waiting for someone to acknowledge that Horobi is not the arc, only for everyone to seemingly forget about that almost immediately, waiting for Horobi to get more screen time, and then, well, I've given up on that one. Ikazuchi, I want to talk about Ikazuchi. I don't know what I want to say about Ikazuchi, but I want to talk about him. I love him to bits, and I treasure every moment he's on screen. I love how casual he is. I love how he's sitting on the table despite plenty of chairs being available, and not even just perching on the end. No, he's really made himself comfy. Seeing him like this just desperately makes me want to see more of his relationship with the other members of Metsubo Jinnai. Seeing him recently, he honestly strikes me as the most down-to-earth and easiest to talk to. I think he's the one I would get on with the most. He's like someone who lives in the country where everyone knows everyone and you strike up a friendly conversation with everyone you pass. The kind of person I'd have a chat with at a farmer's market, I don't know why. Just someone who'd say what he thinks and you don't have to constantly wonder, well, does he mean that? Or is he just saying that because social conventions dictate he must? If anything I'm saying makes any sense at all. He's like that neighbour you lean over the fence to having a chat with, while putting off having to come to terms with the fact he just mowed over the cable again, and going into the house with the guiltiest expression while silently searching for electrical tape. Maybe that's not a universal experience. The kind of person who'd invite you around for a few ciders just because he happens to have some in the fridge, which he absolutely didn't. He definitely bought them specially, but he's telling you that. Actually, is it weird that I view him as being very cat-like? I see him as having an if I fits, I sits mentality. I think a lot about Kazuchi, as you could probably tell. I'm pretty sure they only had Aibo for 2 episodes, didn't they? I could be entirely wrong, but what happens to Thousand the dog if he is indeed not there next week? It would be strange for him to just suddenly not be there, given how attached to Guy is. I was expecting something to happen to explain why he won't be in the next episode. Maybe he will be, like I said, I could be completely wrong with that. Anyway, I have talked way too long about way too little, so I'm going to leave it there. And I have other things planned. I want to talk about Guy's backstory in a separate video, and I want to delve into theories about Guy and Horobi's history because there had to have been one. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that. At least there's no potentially misleading image for me to obsess over for the entire week, only to find out it means absolutely nothing and is in fact Horobi's only frame in the entire episode, and I have completely wasted my time thinking about how cute and precious and adorable the scene could have been. Okay, Saf, yes you, me, look at yourself, look in the mirror, don't look in the mirror, you'll die. If you can't stay at home, go to work. Do not obsess over this image for the next week. You have things to do, okay? You need to re-enroll for uni, you need to call the doctor. You need to focus on fixing up your sodding living room. You do not need to be helplessly obsessing over this one image that probably isn't what you're thinking and probably means nothing. Horobi, I swear to God, it's not your fault, honey. I'm sorry. Arc, I swear to God, if you're making Horobi kidnap Kazuchi as per the will of the arc or something, I'm going to cry and scream and swear. Why is Kamen Rider always so stressful? I feel like that car meme right now, Toei pushing 02, and I'm just like, but I like this image of Horobi and Kazuchi occupying the same space. I'm not going to overanalyze this because it'll end up being nothing. I'm just wanting it to be of their own free will, to the extent that Horobi has free will, which is barely. What it'll end up being is the arc making Horobi recapture Ikazuchi or something, and I'm exhausted trying to see things that aren't there because I'm so desperate for meaningful Horobi content. I can't spend an entire week obsessing over this. I'm just going to take it as it comes. It's an image that's interesting, and that's it. I can do that, right?